Hi everyone. Success doesn't chase people, it chases value. If you want to earn more, influence more, and grow faster, you must become someone the world can't ignore. Skills, mindset, discipline. These are your tools. The more value you bring, the more doors open. It's time to invest in becoming extraordinary. My name is Muniba Mazari and I am a motivational speaker. If you are new to my channel, then subscribe and start a new journey with us. Now, move on the topic. We grow up believing that our value is something we have to find in grades, in jobs, in relationships, in the approval of others. We chase it like a distant star, thinking that one day we'll wake up and finally feel enough. But life has a very different way of showing us where our real worth comes from. Your worth isn't found, it's forged. You don't just wake up one day and become valuable. It happens in the process. It happens when no one's watching. It happens when you're at your lowest and yet you still choose to rise. It's in the way you hold yourself together when everything around you is falling apart. That's value. Not the kind that fades or depends on a title or applause, but the kind that's built deep within you, where no one can take it away. We are taught to celebrate the end result, the medals, the recognition, the perfect picture. But the real gold is found in the fire. The struggle, the pain, the quiet perseverance. That's where you're shaped. That's where you become more than just someone who survives. You become someone who inspires. Someone who carries light not because they've never seen darkness, but because they've walked through it. There were days I thought I had nothing to offer. Days when my voice trembled, when my body betrayed me, when the mirror refused to reflect anything but brokenness. But it was in those exact moments, the ones where I felt least valuable, that I was being shaped into someone stronger. I learned to see beauty in the ashes, strength in my scars, and purpose in the pain. You see, you don't become more valuable by pretending to be perfect. You become more valuable when you are honest about your imperfections, when you dare to show up even when your hands are shaking, when you choose to be kind even though the world hasn't always been kind to you. It's easy to smile when everything is going right, but how you carry yourself when life gets hard, that defines your worth. When you keep showing up to your responsibilities, to your dreams, to your life, even when you're tired, even when it hurts, that's when you start to forge something inside of you that can't be measured in numbers or judged by society. Some people will never see your value, and that's okay, because value isn't always loud. Sometimes it whispers. It whispers in the way you comfort someone else even when you need comfort yourself. It whispers in the way you rise after every fall, even if no one's clapping for you. It whispers in the way you refuse to give up on yourself, even when everyone else has. Your value is in your becoming, not in your pretending. Let your failures teach you, let your pain soften you. Let every trial carve something deeper in you, something truer. Because value that is forged in struggle is unshakable. Is the kind that carries others when they're too tired to walk. Is the kind that walks into a room and makes people feel safe, seen, and inspired, not because you're perfect, but because you're real. The world doesn't need more flawless people. It needs more people who are authentic, who are brave enough to live it with an open heart, who are strong enough to admit when they're scared, who are wise enough to know that every challenge is an invitation to rise, not in ego, but in essence. And that essence, that quiet fire within you, that's your value. You don't have to search for it outside yourself. You don't have to wait for someone to approve it. You don't have to earn it by being anything other than who you are, in your full truth, in your full light. Let life mold you, let it stretch you, let it test you. Because through it all, you are becoming someone who's not only valuable, but unforgettable. People often think that they need to wait until their life is perfectly put together before they can offer something meaningful to the world. We hold back our voice, our gifts, our light, thinking we need to heal first, grow more, or become enough before we step forward. But life has shown me something different. It has taught me that some of the most powerful, transformative, and valuable things we can give come not when we are whole, but when we are broken and still choose to serve. There's a misconception that strength looks like perfection, that value only comes when you've achieved something, when you have the right words, the right image, the right story. But what if your story, as it is now, with the pain, with the cracks, with the unfinished pages, is already enough to help someone else stand up? There was a time when I felt I had nothing left to give. My body had betrayed me, my plans were shattered, I was confined to a wheelchair, my independence gone, and I felt like my voice had been taken from me. But then something unexpected happened. People began to listen. Not because I had the perfect answers, but because I had walked through the fire and was still here, still willing to speak, still willing to feel, still willing to try. Serving others from a place of brokenness is not weakness. It's one of the bravest things a human being can do. It's a declaration to the world, I may be hurting, but I refuse to let that stop me from helping. It means showing up with trembling hands and saying, take this little hope I have, maybe it will light your way too. It's messy, it's raw, and it is beautiful beyond words. We often wait to become a better version of ourselves before we allow ourselves to step into our purpose. But purpose isn't a distant destination. It's not something you arrive at after life becomes perfect. Purpose is found in the small, trembling decisions to rise each day and ask, how can I be of value even now? When you choose to serve from a place of brokenness, you stop being performative and start being real. You stop trying to impress and start to connect. And connection is what heals not just others, but yourself. Every time I've shared my pain, every time I've stood on a stage and told my truth, not the polished version, but the raw truth, I felt a little more whole. Because healing doesn't happen in isolation. Healing happens in service. Healing happens in honesty. You might think your story is too messy, too painful, too incomplete to inspire anyone. But let me remind you, people don't connect with perfection. They connect with truth, with vulnerability, with courage. Your wounds don't make you less valuable. They make you relatable. They make you human. And when you show up despite the pain, you become a mirror for others. You remind them that they can keep going too. There's a sacred kind of strength in being able to say, yes, I'm still healing. Yes, I'm still learning. And still, I'm here, I'm showing up, I'm trying. That still carries more weight than any polished speech or perfect performance ever could. I remember a moment early in my journey when I was asked to speak in front of an audience. I almost said no. I thought, what can I possibly give them? I'm still grieving, still trying to understand this new version of myself. But I said yes, not because I felt ready, but because I felt responsible. I knew someone in that room needed to hear that it's okay to not be okay and still move forward. That day, I didn't deliver a flawless message. My voice shook, my eyes welled up. But when I finished, a woman came up to me with tears in her eyes and said, "You said everything I've been afraid to admit." And I realized then our brokenness doesn't disqualify us. It qualifies us to speak to the hearts of others. We live in a world that glorifies perfection and hides pain. But real value comes from those who have lived the pain and still choose to love, still choose to give, still choose to show up. Not in spite of their pain, but because of it. So don't wait until your heart has no cracks. Don't wait until you feel fearless. Don't wait until you've figured it all out. Start where you are with what you have, however small it seems, because your brokenness doesn't make you less. It makes you more compassionate, more courageous, more connected to the very people you are meant to touch. Every time you speak honestly, you give someone else permission to do the same. Every time you reach out, even when you're hurting, you remind the world that pain and purpose can exist in the same space, that broken people can build bridges, that wounded hearts can still love, that uncertain voices can still inspire. And let's not forget, there is a quiet kind of wisdom that only comes from those who've been broken. When you've known the weight of silence, you speak with empathy. When you've carried invisible wounds, you listen without judgment. That's value. That's the kind of value this world desperately needs. You don't need to have it all together. You don't need to wear a mask of strength. Just be willing. Willing to show up, willing to share, willing to say, here I am, exactly as I am, and I still believe I can make a difference. Because sometimes the most powerful light doesn't come from those who shine the brightest, but from those who refuse to go dark, even when the world tries to dim them. There comes a point in life when you begin to question who you really are, not because you don't know, but because life has taken so much from you that you feel like a shadow of the person you once were. You start to believe that your value is tied to what you've lost. A dream, a person, your health, your strength, your confidence. And in that quiet, painful space, a voice creeps in and says, you're not the same anymore. But what if that's not a bad thing? What if losing everything you once thought defined you is what sets you free to become someone entirely new? You are not what you lost. You are what you choose to become. That's a hard truth. And it's not always easy to accept when your heart is heavy with grief or your hands are empty from things you once held so tightly. But I have learned through experience, not theory, that life doesn't ask for permission when it takes. It just comes in, sometimes like a storm, and turns everything upside down. It leaves you breathless, confused, and changed. But within that change is a choice. Loss is not just about pain. It's about transformation, and what you do with that pain will shape everything about your future. Some people allow it to harden them. They close their hearts, they lower their eyes, they shrink from life. But others rise slowly, quietly, not because they were untouched by pain, but because they chose not to let that pain define the rest of their story. I remember the moment I realized I was never going to be the same again. Not physically, not emotionally. Life had taken too much. But in that moment, I also saw something else. I saw that I still had the power to decide what came next. I couldn't choose what happened to me, but I could choose how I responded. I could choose what I became because of it. And so can you. It's easy to look at your scars and only see what was broken. But scars are not symbols of weakness. They are proof that healing took place, that even though something tried to tear you apart, you held yourself together, that even though life pushed you down, you stood back up. Even if you stood on shaking legs with tears in your eyes, you stood, and that matters more than you know. We are not defined by the losses in our lives. We are defined by how we live after them, by the courage it takes to love again, trust again, try again, by the bravery in believing that we still have something to give, something to create, something to live for, even after everything. Becoming is not about pretending nothing happened. It's about integrating what happened into a new version of yourself, one that is deeper, wiser, and more real. Pain does not erase your identity, it expands it. It invites you to grow into someone you didn't even know you could be. When I speak now, I don't speak from theory. I speak from experience. I speak from a wheelchair, from a place the world once called limitation. But I don't see it that way. I see it as a platform, a place of perspective, a symbol of what I've overcome, not what I've lost. I am not defined by what my body can or cannot do. I am defined by what I choose to do with the life I have left. You might be in a season of loss right now. You might feel like pieces of you have been scattered by the wind, and maybe you don't know how to gather them again. But I want you to know this. You don't need to go back to who you were. That version of you served its purpose. But maybe, just maybe, it's time to become someone even more powerful. You are not starting from scratch, you are starting from experience. The world often tells us that we're less valuable if we've been through too much. That we should hide our past, bury our pain, pretend we've always been okay. But I believe the opposite. I believe the world needs more people who are brave enough to carry their past with dignity and say, "This shaped me." You get to rewrite the story. You get to become the author now. Life may have taken chapters you didn't ask for, but you still hold the pen. And as long as you're breathing, you have the power to write something beautiful, something resilient, something that reflects not what you've lost, but what you've gained. Clarity, courage, compassion. Becoming more valuable is not about acquiring more things. It's not about status or success or the approval of others. It's about becoming more you, more in touch with your soul, more connected to your truth, more grounded in what truly matters. Loss has a strange way of waking us up. It strips away the distractions. It shows us what's real. It humbles us. And in that humility, we discover strength we didn't know we had. We discover grace. We discover that becoming valuable isn't about proving ourselves, it's about being ourselves, fully and unapologetically. You don't need to chase who you were. You need to honor who you are becoming. And I know becoming is uncomfortable. It's not neat. It doesn't come with instructions or guarantees. It comes with fear, with uncertainty, with nights of doubt and days of silence. But it also comes with growth, with resilience, with a power that cannot be taken away because it was earned through fire. What you've lost may always be a part of your story, but it doesn't have to be the ending. You have more to give. You have more to live, and not in spite of what you've been through, but because of it. Because you chose to rise, because you chose to keep going, because you chose to become. So take every scar, every tear, every quiet moment of survival and carry it forward as evidence of your becoming. You are not what broke you, you are the strength that grew in its place. You are not what you lost, you are what you chose to rebuild. Let your story remind others that pain does not mean the end. It can be the beginning of something far more powerful. Keep becoming, keep rising. The world doesn't need the person you once were. It needs the powerful, authentic soul you are becoming now. That is where your true value lives.